Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. Going to have a look at the weather next week, 10 days in today's video. It's going to take us to around 27th of April. We'll also have a look at CFS V2 for the next month. That's going to take us into the second half of May. So we're running down towards the end of spring, actually, with the longer range month ahead stuff. So it looks like we're going to get the warm up this week. It is a little bit cool today, but we're always likely to get a hiccup today. But from tomorrow onwards, we will see those warm winds coming up from the south. It will lift temperatures into the low to mid 20 Celsius. We'll have our taste of summer. I think it's over the weekend that probably breaks down. The temperature may peak early on Thursday, but it'll stay very warm through Friday and Saturday as well. But on Sunday, it's likely to break down. And then next week, looking quite a bit cooler. And we may go really quite unsettled, actually, as we head in towards the final days of April. I'll talk you through all of that in a second. We'll start off, however, having a look at the GFS ensembles. So we're going to begin with the upper air temperature ensembles from the GFS model. We're looking at Keighley up in the north of England today. The red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Keighley, and it shows up very nicely what I was just talking about, because over the next few days up to the weekend, we're going to see temperatures staying way above average, or going way above average. The peak probably occurring on Thursday, just there, is around 10 Celsius at 850 HPA. Bear in mind that's for Keighley, that's for northern England, so down across the southeast it's probably going to be a bit warmer than that. But then let's go through the weekend and into next week. We see the temperature sliding down quite quickly now. Actually, that slide in the temperatures is taking place. So from sort of Saturday to Sunday to Monday, there will be quite a rapid cool down. And then beyond that, actually go through to the final days of the month and into the start of May, temperatures, in terms of the upper air temperatures, are only around average, maybe even going ever slightly cooler than average at that point as well. We are getting ever closer now, when we extended GFS to the May Day bank holiday weekend. We're not quite there yet, but Gazoline's updates for May Day bank holiday weekend will be starting very short. I think we'll begin them over the coming weekend, so not long to wait now before we begin the countdown to our next bank holiday weekend. In terms of precipitation, lots of dry weather coming up in the next few days associated with this warm weather, but then over weekend into next week as the temperature lowers, so the precipitation spikes are coming back. It looks like turning quite unsettled actually through into the extended range, which is late April into start of May. It does look like it's turning increasingly unsettled once again, with quite a lot of rainfall spikes starting to appear. Surface temperature ensembles for Keighley looking like this. So we're starting off above 10 degrees Celsius, not too far from the average at the moment. Those temperatures really getting a boost over the next few days. Into the end of the week, we go up close to 20 degrees. Remember, that is for northern England, so it'll be warmer than that down in the south. But then second half of the weekend into next week, those temperatures are sliding back again before they kind of level off at around mid-teens. Sort of Celsius. Notice a few ensemble members are bringing quite cold nights back as well as we go into this last week of April. So the last week of April is shaping up to be cooler and more unsettled as well. Temperature anomalies for the weekend are looking like this. So we're coming out warmer than average for the UK and for Ireland and for most of Europe as well. It is coming out warmer than average in the weekend from the 17th to the 25th of April. Quite substantially so, especially for central parts of Europe, but the UK and Ireland also coming out significantly warmer than average too. Precipitation anomalies are looking like that. It's a little bit wetter than average now from the far north and west of the British Isles in the week ahead. Drier than average, substantially so for England and Wales. And as this begins to factor in more and more days through that final week of April, these charts might start to trend more unsettled. Over in America, it's a cold scene for central and eastern parts of the states. Winter is still hanging on across the northern and eastern parts of America. So this is our temperature anomaly from the 17th to 25th of April. Western states are coming out with a bit of a mix of either a bit above average or a bit below average. But over in the east of America, from the Midwest eastwards, it really is quite a cold scene, with temperature anomalies substantially colder than average. Once again, precipitation anomalies look like that. It's a bit of a mixed bag, varying from state to state, but generally the northeastern parts of America drive an average, as is the southwest. Southeastern parts down towards Florida, a little bit wetter there, and also a little bit wetter through those central states. This is what's happening in America. So we've got a ridge, a blocking feature sitting over central Canada. There it is. The blocking has gone over to the Canadian side of the Arctic again. It's been moving about all winter and spring, really. Sometimes it's been on our side of the Arctic, other times it's been on the Canadian side of the Arctic. At the moment, it's gone back to the Canadian Arctic once again. So we've got that blocking feature over Canada, and that's producing this cold northerly wind, pushing that cold air out of the Arctic and down through Canada into North America. We've also got a trough here in the northeastern part of the state, so not only is it cold, but is also quite a bit of wintry potential going on as well. Through these western states, there's a little bit more unsettled there, but we are tapping into slightly milder air or warmer air from southern climes in that part of America. There's the upper air temperature showing things up quite nice. So down in the far southwest of the states, it's very hot down there, but go further north, particularly northeast, it does get a lot cooler, and the northeastern part of the states is sitting under still really quite cold air indeed. This is how things look in a week's time, though. This is from a GFS, by the way. This is for Tuesday, 24th April, and by then a nice ridge has developed across many central and eastern parts of America, so that will mean a commencement of spring as we go through into next week. I think the heat is really still down across the far southwest of the states, but the upper air temperatures are lifting up under that ridge for central, northern and northeastern parts of America. It does look like spring will be getting underway at this ridge of high pressure through the course of next week, as the jet stream, of course, that's pushed back up towards Canada. So I think the northern east parts of America should soon be out of worse of things for a while, although further cold shots may not be out of question as we go through into May. Coming back closer to home, this is how things are looking for Europe and for the UK. At the end of the week, we're still under this very warm ridge of high pressure, so the first sort of burst of summer of the season will continue into the end of week. Temperatures maybe not quite as high on Friday as they will be on Thursday, but nevertheless they'll be going up into the low to mid-20s Celsius. That ridge sticks with us into Saturday. Again, temperatures just lower by a couple of degrees every day from Friday through to Saturday, but it'll still be pleasantly warm, still temperatures way above average, and a good deal of sunshine as well. By Sunday, that high pressure is beginning to slip in towards Central Europe, though, and low pressure is starting to head in from off the Atlantic. That's coming to that warm air, so there is a little bit of thundery potential there, perhaps, on Sunday. There's a precipitation forecast from the GFS for Sunday afternoon. You can see it is going for quite heavy showers across particularly the Midlands and northern parts of England, and this is the Cape and lifted. You'll be seeing a lot more of these charts in the next few months, because this tells us the convective potential, or the potential, if you like, for lightning and thunder. And you can see we have got high rates of convective potential here, especially across England and Wales on Sunday afternoon. Look at that, we are seeing the red and orange colours appearing there across England and Wales on Sunday afternoon. Yellows, reds and orange indicating high rates of convective potential. So we're going to be having to narrow that down over the next few days. There may well be a storm watch coming up, or maybe a couple of storm watches coming up at the end of the week. It's very early in the season for storm watch. Normally we get that going in May or June. But we can only go by what models are showing, and the GFS is quite keen there to be producing a fair amount of convective potential on Sunday. By the time you get through to Monday, that has gone, and the reason is that we go into a cooler, fresher westerly wind as that thundery trough clears away late on Sunday. So by Monday next week, we're back into a cooler and fresher westerly, and then that continues into Tuesday as well, with westerly winds coming back in from off the Atlantic. By Wednesday next week, we're actually turning more unsettled as well. So initially it cools down, but probably still relatively dry Monday and Tuesday. But by Wednesday, low pressure is starting to get back in from off the Atlantic, back in business. And so as we go through towards day 10, we find that it turns increasingly unsettled, especially so up in the north. But all places do have a risk of showers or longer spells of rain coming through there in the second half of next week, and temperatures are becoming cooler as well. As we go into the extended range, again, it's just turning more unsettled as we go into the closing days of the month. We find that low pressure really takes over the pattern. That's going up to the penultimate day of April, and this is the final day of April, where obviously we are back into a very unsettled flow. Low pressure is dominating, it's cool and it's unsettled, and that's weather carries us through into a start of May. As far as we can go with the GFS is the 3rd of May, and again it is looking really unsettled and cool by then. So a big change taking place next week. This is how the ECMWF is looking again under that ridge of high pressure, very warm weather. First burst of summer continuing on Friday, stays mostly dry and settled into the weekend. Gradually, this high pressure is slipping eastwards. It's a little bit slower doing it compared to the GFS, but slowly but surely low pressure is beginning to develop out to the south and the west, bringing increasing risk of heavy showers, maybe thunderstorms. This more for the early part of next week as opposed to Sunday. So it's a bit of a discrepancy there between the GFS and the ECM as to when the breakdown occurs. We might be able to keep it mostly dry through the weekend and bring the breakdown in early next week. But whether it's Sunday or Monday, it does look as though the weather will turn more unsettled. And then as we go through into next week, the ECMWF, same as the GFS, turns things increasingly cool and unsettled. That's how things are looking by day 10, Friday 27th of April. Quite cool because the air is following isobars back. The air is originating from the North Atlantic and the south of Greenland, so temperatures will be a lot lower. And low pressure is in control, so at the very least there'll be showers and maybe some longer spells of rain as well. So let's just extend out beyond that with CFS V2 finally. These are the 500 millibar height anomalies broken down into weekly periods. The first weekly period will take us from today, the 17th, through to the 23rd of April. The coming week finds we have this ridge of above average heights over and to the south and the east of the British Isles, with below average heights in the west, the jet streams going like that. So that's our first burst of summer there. Quite obviously from today through towards the 23rd of April, we're going to get much warmer and drier conditions. But as we go through to week 2, we find quite a substantial change taking place. This is the 24th to the 30th of April, with a deep trough heading into Scandinavia. The ridge is pulling out into the Atlantic, and so that's allowing the wind to return to a west-northwesterly flow, and it will be turning more unsettled, especially for northern parts of the country. Main thing is that it's a lot cooler. Then we go through to week 3, which is the first week of May. This is the 1st through to the 7th of May. And we've got blocking here close to Greenland again. So never a particularly good sign. When you get that, you'll tend to get low pressure underneath it, especially so in the summer months. So that looks really cool and unsettled there, I would have thought, for the first week of May. Not a particularly good start to May at all. And then we go through to week 4, which is the 8th through to the 14th of May, with below average heights out to west-southwest and above average heights still close to Greenland. The only difference is that we're probably pulling in more of an Atlantic flow, so it's unsettled and it's still quite cool, but it shouldn't be quite as cool as it will be in week 3. Nevertheless, that is looking like a relatively cool and probably unsettled first half to May. Temperature anomalies look like that. CFS V2, the week ahead, 17th to 23rd of April, is going to going to be very substantially warmer than average for the UK and also for most parts of Europe as well. But then week 2, what a turnaround. Temperature anomalies then are going colder or cooler than average for the 24th through to the 30th of April. A big slide in the temperatures, not just for the UK, but for most parts of Europe as well. Southern Europe, Mediterranean areas, still seeing those temperature anomalies holding up there, but for much of central northern Europe, and the British Isles is included in that, it is turning cooler than average for the final week of April. That cool weather continues into the first week of May, again with temperature anomalies coming out below average from the 1st through to the 7th of May. Most of northern Europe is included in that as well. And then we go through to week 4 when we find still nothing to get excited about, but temperature anomaly is beginning to recover a little bit then from the 8th to the 14th of May, going back closer to average. But that would be a pretty cool first half to May, you have to say. So all of the evidence is that if you want some warm weather, I suggest you make the most of the next few days, because once we get through to the weekend, it looks like although it'll start off warm initially, by the end of the weekend we'll probably be seeing a breakdown, maybe with some thunder taking place, and then next week through to the end of April and possibly even into the early part of May is looking a lot cooler and more unsettled with time as well. So we are going to get our little burst of summer in the next few days. First burst of summer of the season, as I keep saying. But make the most of it, because it's not set to last, and actually once it breaks down, it may be some time, if these long-range charts anyway are correct, it may be some time before we go back to the sort of warm temperatures that we're going to have in the next 2, 3 to 4 days. So do make the most of it if you can. Right, we'll update you again tomorrow with 5-day forecasts, and we'll have a look at weather for next week, for the next few days, beyond that, next week, 10 days, I should say. May include Beijing Climate Centre in that as well, because it's not looked at that for a little while. So come back for that tomorrow, but that's all for now, and thanks for watching.